Welcome back to episode 2 of our new user in-depth guide. Now my name is Divine and today we're going to be taking a look at gathering and crafting and all the goodness that goes with that. Now I have some great information for you guys in this video, but before we start that, I just ask that you guys subscribe if you haven't already. It really just helps me out. But without further ado, let's grab a snack and a Capri Sun and jump right in. Alright, so up first we're going to be taking a look at gathering. So let's see how our attributes actually affect us when we're gathering materials out in the world. So our attributes help out the following: strength for mining, dexterity for skinning, intelligence for harvesting, constitution for logging, and focus for fishing. So now that we know what attributes affect what harvesting abilities, let's see how they actually affect those in a little bit more detail. So once you hit 50 points into a single attribute, you will gain a 10% speed increase in the skill that correlates with that attribute. So for example, if you had 50 points into strength, that would give you a 10% mining speed increase. The next attribute bonus for harvesting won't happen again until 150 points into one of the attributes, which will grant you a negative 10% weight reduction in items that relate to that skill. And then moving further into your attributes, once you hit 200 points, you're actually going to get another 10% speed bonus. And then finally, once you hit 250 points, you're going to get a 10% yield bonus, which will give you more materials when you're gathering in that skill. One thing I would like to note though is fishing actually gets a different kind of bonus. Now their bonuses are actually going to give you fishing line tension. You will actually get a weight reduction of fishing items, and then you will also in the end at 250 get a 10% increase in caught fish size. So it affects it a little bit differently, but similar in a way as well. Alright, so now that we know what the attributes are going to help us with our harvesting abilities, let's talk about some of the tools that we're going to actually use to harvest things. Alright, so bringing up on the screen here, you can see that I have the full flint set of the knife, pickaxe, sickle, and logging axe. Now these are what are going to be utilized to get all those materials for crafting. One thing to note with all this flint stuff though, I want you to notice is the 100% gather speed. Now I'm going to show you guys the iron stuff now. Alright, and one of the biggest differences you're going to notice right away is the 125% increase in gather speed. Now, this is also noticeable between going up from iron to steel, and then star metal, and then into the orichalcum tool sets. And another large benefit of actually upgrading your tools is going to be the ability to have perks added to that. Now, I brought up a list here that's actually going to show you mining perks. Now, just note that all the other tools are going to be very similar in how they give you any kind of perk. They just vary whether or not it's logging, mining, skinning, but they all basically do the same thing. So the first would be the ability to actually get more durability on the tool itself. So that just means it's going to break less and you're going to have to worry about repairing it less. Next is going to be Azoth extraction. So this is just going to give you a percentage chance of gaining Azoth when you gather a node or a resource itself. Up next would be the luck perk, so that's going to actually give you a percentage of finding a rare item when gathering materials. And after that is going to be the yield increase. Now this is going to give you more resources whether or not you're mining a node or, cutting down a tree, so you don't have to cut down as many. And then after that is my favorite one. Now this is going to be the discipline, where you gain more experience with whatever you're doing. So that would be if you're skinning or mining or anything like that. This will always sell for a ton more if a tool has this and then you put it on the trading post itself. So kind of beware if you already have one and you're just making tools and it gains this one. It's always good to have additional cash flow inside. And then lastly is going to be a perk that gains you haste after gathering said node. Now I feel like this is the most useless one. Others might disagree, but I feel like the three that are the best are luck, yield, and discipline. And that's just my personal preference on the matter. So, I mean, if you guys think differently, by all means, do what fits your gameplay the most. And an additional note on the perks themselves. Now, when you move up to iron, you have the ability to get 1 perk. Steel gives you the ability to have 2. Star metal and orichalcum give you the ability to have 3 perks. And also note that you won't be guaranteed to have this many perks or any perks on a weapon that you craft. These are all chance based, and you can make it a greater chance, but I'll show you that a little bit later. And while we're on the subject, I do want to kind of go over quickly what levels you need to be able to use these tools. So we have iron at level 5, steel tools are at level 20, star metal at level 40, and orichalcum at level 60. Alright, so I want to give you guys a pro tip here. If you want to make something that's a higher tier item, something like, say, star metal that you normally need level 40 to be able to equip, so how you can do this is actually utilizing the secondary resources of an item and using a lower tier for them. And this would be things like using timber instead of lumber, coarse leather instead of rugged leather. And with doing this, you can actually drop an item's level requirements by, I believe, 3 or 4 levels, which is pretty cool. Alright, so moving on, the next thing I wanted to show you guys is how do you learn a recipe. So if you get a recipe from just random chests or something like that, what you have to do to actually learn it is salvage the recipe itself. So this was a little weird. I heard a couple different people that were a little afraid to salvage their recipe, even though it tells you specifically to do this to learn it, but that's how you learn a recipe. And now the most requested question in beta, how to make linen. It's hemp, guys. Just hemp. No, so this is one thing I feel like in the beta, it was a little bit hard because everybody was starting out and everybody that saw hemp was harvesting it so much that it was just kind of confusing for people on where to find it. And honestly, it's everywhere in the starting areas, guys. So when you first start out and there's a bazillion people, it's probably going to be pretty hard to find. So just be aware of that. And then the next question for my gun users out there is always going to be, where do I find saltpeter? Saltpeter, the where in the world is Carmen Sandiego of New World Materials? Well guys, this is usually just located on cave floors, and honestly it's not too bad to find once you find some caves that do have it, because it's kind of abundant, honestly, and not a whole lot of people collect it. And I kind of correlate that with because you have to kind of really look at it on the ground to make it a like the harvest button come up. So just kind of be aware when you're in a cave and you're probably going to find some. So I want to explain one last thing that's pretty hard to find or understand when you first start out, and that's finding your secondary ingredients for a lot of these recipes. So whether you're doing smelting or cloth weaving or lumber, things like that, all use a sort of secondary ingredient that is not player made, and it is only found in chests around the world. And I believe some monsters actually drop this stuff. So these actually includes flux, crossweave, solvent, tannin, and sandpaper. So these are items that you need to be looking out for, those chests around the world, and just make sure that you're looting everything you possibly can, because you're going to be finding these items. Now at some point while you're crafting, you're probably going to find out that you don't have all these secondary ingredients, but luckily there is a solution for this. And the way we're going to do this is actually a faction-specific reward called a common material converter. Now what this does is actually takes one material, say like something like flux, and we could turn it into something like solvent. So what it would do is actually take 20 of one item, and then your output would only be 15. So just kind of be aware of this when you're using it. You're not going to get 1-for-1 specific ratio. You are going to lose, I think, 5 every time. And the last thing to note about these secondary crafting ingredients is going to be that you can find up to tier 3 in zones that range from about 0 to 38 for player levels. Tier 4 are going to be found between level 34 and 58 level monsters, and then tier 5 is going to be anything about 56 to 60. Alright, and so the last section I wanted to talk about is how to get Azoth. Now, you can get this from the main story quest, and you'll actually get quite a bit from there. The next would be from killing monsters. Now, these need to be at least level 30, and you'll just randomly get 10 Azoth from killing one. You can also get 15 from killing level 50 or higher. And then lastly would be things from like harvesting or lumbering or mining. You can just randomly get some as well. But just know that you are capped at 1,000, and at higher levels, this is very easy to do. So just beware and constantly be kind of using it when you can. Alright guys, well that's all I have for you today. If you like this content, please feel free to hit that subscribe down below. It really does help me out. And if you see something that should be added to a future video, please write that in a comment. I do read all your guys' comments. So until then, I will see you guys in the next one.